So as I wait on this bite and nibble on my snack, I wanted to give y'all a little philosophy from my perspective. So I had a conversation with a friend recently. I can't really say it was a conversation because they didn't reply after the initial comment was made in my response. They just dropped it right there. And if they see this someday, hey, you know you're my homie for life, man. I was just giving you my perspective, and I hope you was feeling where I was coming from. So what started it was I had seen a sorry, these little cookies are so good they're hitting the spot. But I had seen a recent video that The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, the legend, one of my great idols in the biz. I admire that man's career and charisma and everything, like most of the world does. Who doesn't love The Rock, right? The Rock is the man. And I'm a wrestling fan, so I mean, it started there and it went from there. The bottom line is, I follow The Rock like most of the world, and he loves fishing. So Rocky, if you ever see this, man, I always say, me and you, we got to do, man. We got to get out on this water and fish, man. I know you're always in Atlanta to film something. This is my hometown. I'm here whenever. We bound to cross paths. I've actually worked on sets with him. Awesome dude. Never had the pleasure of meeting him directly, but I've been in his presence. And so The Rock likes to post videos of himself fishing. And he posted one where he was catching a bass at his private pond on his property. And, he raises them. He raises largemouth and hybrid bass and some other species. And he typically, whenever you see him catch one, it's catch and release. He'll get them, go through the struggle, bring them up, put them on camera, hold up the big girl, big boy, be like, oh, look at that beauty, oh, look at there, man, I love this, whatever. Put them right back. Enjoy the moment. But in this particular video, most of the time he's starting off from the point where he's already lipped the bass, holding it, putting it in the camera, But in this video, you see the struggle of what it is to get a fish that's over 5 pounds. This bass had to be like 7, 8 pounds. So the fish is splashing, he's trying to get away. He's doing his thing. You can't really see what's going on. You just see The Rock's hulking body leaning over, getting it. If you've seen this video, you know what I'm talking about. And he finally pulls out the bass. So I reposted that in Onyx Khan's main feed and in our Onyx Khan Outdoors feed on Instagram, which you should be following and subscribing here to everything we do, because it's all Onyx Khan, because Onyx Khan is a what? Is a lifestyle. Okay. So he's doing his thing. And a friend of mine saw it, I guess, and commented, sent me a quick message. And there's so many words, they worded it to say that, he's out here, The Rock's out here. What did he use the word? He used traumatizing fish, and left it at that, like, that was his interpretation of what he saw in that video. I just laughed for a moment to myself, and I thought, I said, okay, how do I want to respond to this as an angler, as someone who does this, as someone who understands the process of fishing and what it takes to do that, and what it's all about if you enjoy it. And there's many reasons, and everybody defines it differently. What I'm about to say is my reason. It doesn't mean this is the same for other people. It may not be the same for a lot of people, but it is what it is for me. So the reason I came up with the Onyx Khan philosophy on fishing through the Onyx Khan Fishing Tournament is, first and foremost, fishing and the entire concept of fishing in the grand span of the evolution of humanity on this earth, on this planet, started on the continent of Africa, the African peoples, original first peoples of humanity, finding a way of sustenance. A healthy way of obtaining a meal, just like any other way of obtaining a meal. Whether you're hunting or gathering, fishing is always still hunting. It's aquatic hunting. Okay? So, And the nature of all men and women is the desire to stay alive and to find a way to eat. Whether you eat flora, the plants, or fauna, other animals, we are all one with nature, and everything eats something to survive. And so, in my philosophy about this, I see it that anyone who is fishing is always, first and foremost, doing an act to obtain a meal. Now, someone will say, oh no, I do it just for sport. Now, here's my philosophy on where that came from. First and foremost, when you are fishing, no fish, and I repeat, no fish ever signed, no animal, period, ever signed up to be a part of a human sport in a contest where they say they are an opponent and they're going willingly into an act of challenge from another being, in this case being a human. Fish do what they do instinctually, and quiet as kept, we do what we do instinctually. Or not as, I won't say quite as kept, but you, hopefully if you're intelligent enough to understand where I'm coming from, I'm saying we all have our nature. We all have our natural way of why we do what we do, okay? Within balance of nature. I'm not talking about the illogical things we do. I'm not talking about the dysfunctional things we do. I'm talking about the functional things we do to survive that work in tandem with the rest of nature. So, finding a meal for oneself, a healthy, nutritious meal, and fish are definitely that, proven time and time again for the most part, with the exception of human intervention with the species and contamination of water, blah, 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 causing issues that cause us to have the issues we have when we eat certain things that don't agree with us individually or in mass. So getting back to the point, original human beings fishing for fish. In that process, because the first hook, if you did not know, was invented in ancient Kemet. Kemet is ancient Egypt. That's the original word for Egypt. Kemet. Okay, look it up. Kemet, sometimes Kemt. It just depends on how you want to spell it. But that's the assumed pronunciation. Kemet. Okay. Ancient Egypt, the first relic of a hook was found in Egypt. So Africans gave the world fishing. And in the process, the whole point was originally to obtain meals. Now, in the process of obtaining the meal, sometimes there's such a variety of fish, you find that there's some things you cannot eat. There's some things you should not eat. There's some things that are too dangerous to handle and harvest, meaning take out, so that you can obtain it for a meal. You have to kill it to eat it, right? Yes. Okay. Or even if you're bold enough to eat something super small that can go down your throat and won't kill you if you eat it live, it's always a challenge. There's a lot of rules to this thing, right? So you don't catch and keep everything in the history of humans fishing. Sometimes you catch stuff, you put it back. Thus began the first process of catch and release. Not because you weren't starting off looking for a meal. Now, you advance forward with many societies and different reasons for fishing and finding the enjoyment in the process, because it is a thrill to get that tug on a line or to do the other methods of fishing and to acquire a meal and to do it enough to be seen as someone who brings sustenance to the tribes, to sustenance to the town, sustenance to the city, sustenance to, oh boy, I'm getting a bite. Here we go. And here's some canoers right when I'm in the middle of a bite. Let's get on it. Let's see what happens. This is a trip. So I'm still in the middle of a slight bite. I had some nibbles, and I'm thinking any minute now it's about to take off. So I think I got time to finish my statement. So here we go. So in the process of doing what I'm doing right now, you catch different things. And for instance, I'm fishing especially for gar and catfish when I'm in this spot. Some people might say, oh, gar. Even some people say, catfish. You know, they don't like to eat catfish, whatever. Catfish are delicious. If they weren't, people wouldn't farm raise them for meals. So somebody appreciates the taste of a catfish, is what it is. All right. Do I eat every catfish I catch? Heck no. Why? Not because there's anything wrong with the fish itself, but there is something wrong with the water that humans have contaminated. Yes, human beings have messed up anything that's wrong with the rest of nature. Nature don't mess itself up. I haven't seen one example of how that goes. See, nature just does what it does. It's acting in its nature. I'm hungry, I like that. I'll eat that. Now, why do I want to go through the struggle and stress of catching a fish that is in some ways dangerous. First and foremost, I respect the fish. So I know when it's struggling against me in the fight to shore, all the way to me getting the hook out of its mouth. It's nothing personal. It's its instinct. No different than anything trying to survive. Yeah, it's on. The reality is this. There was a film made in 1970s. I can't recall the original date, but it's easy to find because it had a soundtrack. The whole score for the film was produced by the legendary Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder did the soundtrack, and it's called The Secret Life of Plants. And it shows in this film a series of scientific studies that make a point of showing slow motion capture of a daily treatment of a plant by a scientist, a house plant, a common house plant. And he would come every day and cut the plant, cut a leaf off in the same place, or cut a leaf off in a different place at a different point. And every time that scientist would come in the room, they could show with this slow motion photography that shows, like, if you don't know, plants don't just grow and it's not visible. I have plants, house plants. And when you see a house plant start growing, it moves. Like if the plant is starting to droop and you water it, when it starts to come back to life, it will move, and it's kind of ghostly. It makes you feel, whoa, what was that? What you moving? What's that sound? You realize your plant is moving, it's growing, it's filling back up with water, it's getting its nutrients. So the plant would move away from this scientist. They could see the distance of it moving from its original position to other positions to try and get out of the way of being cut again. So everything, I do mean everything, can feel something. It may be not perceived as pain in a human perspective, but it can be seen as a desire to not be hurt, if you will. So the whole concept of, you're just harassing animals, it's not about that. It's about knowing the original purpose of why you're doing what you're doing, which is why we don't look down on those who fish for a meal. We fish for the meal and the thrill. And if the thrill is always a part of it. So if you catch something you don't want to keep, sometimes you're catching it just for the thrill. I tell you this though, if the shelves get empty in these grocery stores, you're going to be looking for people like myself that have skills like me to feed you and your families. Because for all y'all who are scared of the apocalyptic end, which none of us want to see, the only folks who are going to really know how to survive are those who've built some skills like me and others who know how to get out here in the middle of all of this and figure out something to get a meal. So in the meantime, we enjoy the thrill and the meal. Happy fishing. And so, amongst certain cultures, the concept of calling a fish a rough fish or a trash fish, I don't even like to say it out loud, came to be. In the Honest Con Fishing Tournament, there is no such thing as a trash. In the Honest Con Fishing Tournament, there is no such thing as a trash fish. There is no such thing as a rough fish. Now, I do know about a lot of trash people, and they come from every type of people. Oh, there's plenty of trash. But there are no trash fish. So we respect the honor and the integrity required to fish and respect everything, even if you don't like how it looks, even if you don't like how it tastes, even if you have a preference. That's some human stuff. And more importantly, it's some individual stuff. And it does not give us the right to destroy something just because we don't like the way it looks or acts or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, of course, I'm human and I understand these desires and concepts. If a roach gets in my house, it's dead because it can harm me, it can harm my family, it can harm my living, it can do a lot of damage, right? Just like a mouse, just like a rat, just like anything we consider a pest. So everything that needs to be outside in that way needs to stay outside. Yeah, it's just common sense. So, back to the point. Everything struggles for a reason when it's being caught. And yes, it's a thrill to us, or it could be a meal to us, or it could be fun and release to us. And because of that, I don't let my human ego get in the place of saying, it's a sport and that's my opponent. Now, I might joke about it. I might make some joke, but I want you to know this is my personal philosophy that I put into Honest Con Fishing Tournament. There is no sport in this. Now, I'll tell you what a sport is. I said there's no sport in this. I'm talking about me and the fish. With other human beings? Oh, yeah. Challenge. Can you outcatch me? Can you outweigh me with what I call all of that? All of that is and could be the sport of it all. But other than that, why call it a sport? It's ridiculous to me. Take time for that Honest Con fishing tournament. Honest Con fitness moment. Ooh, he hauling. Gosh, a good. Ooh. Oh, there we go. Choke, 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 choke. Get him. Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. Oh, no. Don't let it go. God almighty, I think it let it go. Oh, my gosh. He got to the end of the spool. Hot almighty. Hot almighty. Let it go. Honest Con fishing tournament. We do it for the thrills and for the meals. The tug is the drug for these fish that we love. And that's the philosophy. Remember that.